by the folks at Zions Bank and Susie Becker to one of the biggest questions is, you know, what is the impact of this project on the development? And there is, and based on that study that was done by Zions Bank, it has a positive impact to the city in excess of $25 million over that 30 to 40 year development timeline. So at least this project, and again, it was asked Bill in the last question, you know, the last thing, you know, how many of these people are going to be primary and how many are going to be secondary? And that's an interesting question. It's hard for us to identify specifically. It's going to be 80-20. We live in a community here, like for example, when we did Plat A, we kind of identified that as, in a lot of ways, we thought it would be, you know, a lot of primary residents. And it's interesting how that has been, it's been dynamic and it's changed a little bit, ebbed and flowed. A lot of the single-family detached homes in that development mostly are primary residents. In the townhomes in that area, it flips the other direction, where a lot of them are second homes. And so it's really a price point thing in a lot of ways. I've said our price point probably starts in the 300s and goes up to $1 million. Well, there's a lot of people, because we live so close to Deer Valley and Park City, that look at that as a pretty affordable second home compared to buying something in Park City. And a lot of people don't care whether they're ski in and ski out. They just want to be up in this beautiful community. So we do get a lot of secondary people. And I still would say a large portion or a significant portion of our development will be that. I would probably tell you that along the North Village is the stuff that faces the Heber Valley. That's probably where you're going to see more primary residents. And the stuff around by the lake and back up over in that other beautiful valley that goes back over the top, you're probably going to see that being more secondary. So, you know, again, if I were a betting man today, I would still probably say a lot of this development will still be secondary, you know, secondary market. But that's, our goal is to try and fit what Bill talks about, is that hole in the market that, you know, provides housing for, you know, for real people. Thanks. Everybody's a real person. I hate to use that comment, but I know what you're getting at. How many people in here live in this valley? Let raise their hands. How many of these people here, with their hands up, have kids in here, or kids? How many of you have kids that are more than 2 kids? More than 2 kids. Okay, so when you talk about population growth, okay, what you've just shown by raise of your hands is that you are your own internal growth mechanism, right? We here in Utah have larger family sizes. We have our own internal growth. We are seeing a lot of growth coming in from out of state to here. There's no question about it because it's such a beautiful place to live. But when we as families have more than 2 or 3 kids, we have just essentially doubled our own population, because I'm betting, with the exception of if your kid could find a place to live, where would they want to live? Right here where they grew up, because it's such a beautiful place. So what we try to do in our master plan communities is have the ability for people to, you know, they might start in an apartment. They might start in an apartment because they went to Utah Valley University there. They could grow into a townhome, and then grow and move up into a single family because they love the area, they love the development they live in. And so that's always our goal, is to get that internal growth so that people can move up and stay in the community that they've grown up in. Anyway, that's my presentation. I wanted to give you a big 30,000-foot overview, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have if you have any. Yes, sir.
Why annex to the city? What's the city going to give you that the county is not going to give you?
I mean, as you saw with the map that Bill portrayed up there, there's a lot of proposed developments. The majority of those developments are proposed to be in the county. Our personal experience, we've had this experience in Salt Lake County with our projects out there. We were out on the edge in the same kind of fashion environment. And we just feel that the cities are capable of managing and keeping up with the growth, because that's what they're designed to do. Our personal feeling is that the counties have a lot of issues they have to deal with. This county is huge. In fact, it might even be the largest county in the state. I mean, they send people clear over past Strawberry, clear over that direction. I think it's a difficult challenge they have to manage, and they've got a lot to manage in and around Deercrest. So our personal feeling is that we feel that the city, because of our location with the city, is better equipped and better able to handle municipal growth. We just feel, and that's been our experience where we've developed in Salt Lake County. And we incorporated our land there into the city of Harriman for that same reason, rather than develop it in the county. So that's our personal feeling. The plan as it's proposed is the same plan that was proposed and approved at the county. So it's the same number of units, the same density model, all of those things are the same. So we just feel that it can better be served by the municipality and be able to handle that development better.
So do you have any issues with the county with this development? Have you had issues with the county with this development?
I mean, no significant issues, and just the time and length it takes to get things done and processed through the county. That's what I would say.
You pass around?
Sure.
Okay.
$25 million doesn't look like a lot of money in 40 years. The $600,000, if we do it from the beginning, and, you know, $600,000 in 40 years is middle of nothing. You know, just so I'm just trying to understand the economics of it.
And again, you can go through the study in detail, but of course that's based on today's dollars and you know, those kind of things. And so, I mean, what it is it's a net positive, right? On something that's primarily residential. So
I'm just looking at the expenses that the city will incur. You know, having the police, you know, the traffic, the roads.
The study takes into all of that into consideration. And even after all of those expenses are paid, it's still a net positive. So,
From property tax, basically, or from sales tax?
well, I mean, there is some sales tax, but those sales tax dollars aren't considered. It's just based on what the current city's development fees and
So you're talking impact fees?
and whatever the current tax rate is. That's what's taken into case.
Our property tax take is very small.
Percentage-wise, you're right, with the exception of the portion that are secondary, right? So.
But I'm just saying, even then, Heber City gets 5 or 6% of the total. The school district gets most of it.
And a lot of the public doesn't know that. You're right, Ron, and that's important for people to know. That it's the city's portion of the tax bill is very small, but all of that is taken into consideration in the fiscal impact study.
I mean, the sales tax is carrying our.
It is. It is.
By far.
And it helps you significantly. You're right. You're right. Yes.
Hi, Mike. It's Deborah West.
Hi, Deborah.
Good to see you.
Oh yeah. Good to see you
I wanted to double check. Are you still completely ungated, the community?
Well, I mean, yes, we are. The major spine backbone road is a public road through there. We will have some, obviously, communities off of there that will be, you know, gated or amenitized, but the community is largely still non-gated. In other words, it's not like Victory, it's not like, you know, those like that has a gate at the beginning and relies on that to get through.
So ostensibly, someone could come in through Coyote or 32 and then kind of cut through to the Lake Creek area via Little Pole or some of the other.
Well, I mean, the only way they can go up through that way is to drive out Lake Creek Road, drive up the dirt road, and come into the back side. But they'd be coming up a dirt road to do that. Again, it's not.
Or eventually going the other way if there was traffic coming from other developments in East Heber over time.
Yeah, again, all our model shows the traffic flowing out towards Highway 32. That's the least path of resistance for everyone to go.
But they're public roads.
Because they're public roads, and they are public roads, that's right.
But essentially, if your development continues and there's development in East Heber, that traffic could come down Lake Creek, avoid Main Street traffic by cutting through Little Pole.
Little Pole's a 4-wheel drive road half the year.
Right now.
I mean, again, I can't answer that question just because I don't know what the county's plan is for the Little Pole Road
Right.
or those changes.
But on your side, you won't have a gate, is basically what I'm asking.
They're not gated.
Well, we're not a gated community there.
Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, if that section of Little Pole Road is a public road going down through there, we're not gonna widen it, expand it, do anything to the Little Pole. But my guess is the county and or the city would at least maybe have a connection to it. We currently have one to it now.
And so someone.
But it's just dirt
So someone would be able to drive through your community though to
and could come out.
come out. That's what I'm asking. Thank you so much.
For planning discussions as we move forward, we have the county uses this, what is it,
Oh, ERUs.
ERUs, and you're used to working or talking to them in that language. We don't. And I've been advocating or suggesting we need to convert to that, or at least a table that converts them, because all of a sudden you're used to that when we talk about residential units. And
I will tell you
they
here
don't
that,
convert as equal.
you're right. I know what you're talking about. A lot of times we use the term ERU, and we use it a lot in engineering to calculate what capacity of water or sewer or whatever needs are. And what he's getting at is, for example, an ERU is an equivalent resident unit. And what that means is that they do things based on a 2,000 square foot household, right? Here's how much water or sewer a 2,000 square foot household is, and that's one ERU. So if you lived in an 1,100 square foot townhome or a 900 square foot apartment, that would be something less than one ERU. Okay, that's what Ron is
But we're
sort of
used to
like.
saying residential.
Right.
So if
So
an
what-
average family is 3 people and we got 100 residential units, all of a sudden that's how many people we got, but it just doesn't convert.
No, what we have proposed here is units, what you're used to seeing and talking, the 5,770
You'd be
units.
talking to us going forward in residential units.
And yes. When we talk to the Jordan Special Service District for them and the capacity of their systems, because this is proposed to be fed from the JSSD, we would be talking to them in ERUs. But in the city's purpose and the numbers you've seen here, it's units, what you're used to
So it
seeing.
might be helpful for the public here to understand, as I understand it, none of this, as far as water and sewer, will be handled by Heber City. It's already in special service district.
It
So
is currently being handled by the Special Service District, and my understanding, what the commitment of the city has been, is to leave it that way.
if there were any properties that are not in those service districts, as happened with the VXC, we would ask them to commit to Heber. But I'm just clarifying,
Yep.
at least as far as sewer and water,
Yes.
there will be no impact one way or the other, which is actually positive
Okay.
in a way. But we're not going to service this.
That's correct. The JSSD is,
Right.
and currently is serving it. Yeah. Did I see another hand out there? Yes, sir.
Mike, I've got a few for you.
Go ahead.
A bunch of neighbors here are from playing A right there.
Bro, okay,
Yeah.
say.
I hope you can hear me. My voice is a little sore. But again, I commend the county. I think the county does a great job with snow removal, garbage.
Yeah.
Is there a cost difference with your suggested annexation going from the county to the city first? And secondly, if there is, what benefit do we get out of it? I think right now the services are great.
To be honest with you, I mean, I have not looked at it being, I don't know what the rate is for the city to remove snow, for example. I don't know what that is. I'm assuming they do as good a job as the county does, but I mean, you'd have to ask a Heber City resident and see if they feel the same way.
What about the tax difference?
I mean, my guess is that there's probably an additional tax for Heber City, right? Is my guess, would that be?
Yep. We got a tax, there won't be any positive return if we don't tax it.
Right. So that would be, I think, to those residents, there would be that additional tax.
So what does that benefit the people that are there? That's my question.
Higher level service.
Exactly.
What's that? Higher level service. Yeah, higher level of service.
Higher level. What?
High level service.
No.
We have a high level.
I'm not trying to
Yeah.
argue, but again, I think the county does a fantastic job.
And just know that everyone in the county pays the county tax general fund. So all these developments in the county, people in the city pay the same amount as you do, but in the city you pay a little extra for those services. So typically urban development does fall in the cities for that reason. So yeah, there will be a little bit more tax, but it's a smaller amount than what you pay to the county tax.
And less service?
Less service?
Yeah, we got great service.
Yeah.
Do you know what that number, just a guesstimate would be, is it 10%? 5%?
Yes.
Just a
I'd
guesstimate.
say it's about, was it half, a little over half of what your county general fund tax is? If you look at all the list on your property tax, it's probably like half or a little more than half of what the county general fund line is. It'll say general fund.
Mike, you're not proposing Plat 80 Annex, right?
We have not proposed that. It could be, but we're not proposing that.
Well, the county said that if you annex all this other property, they're not going to come and service Plot A for some little neighborhood where you have all this section and they just have to service that. So they would suggest that you also annex Plat A. And that's why we want to know if we're going to pay more in taxes for what?
Who said that in the county?
Excuse me?
Who said that in the county?
That's what Mike's.
Saying if they're not annexed, they won't provide you services?
Well, they don't want to. They're going to say, why would the county want to go and do a little plot like this?
That's all they're doing right now. That's all they do right
So they
now.
would suggest, no, they don't. They got that whole, everything up in there.
They reply by.
I personally did not include your development on the.
No, you haven't excluded it yet. But if it does, then we kind
By
of
default,
start
we
by
may
that.
end up dead, exactly.
They have to
Legally, let me just speak.
They have to
Legally, the
provide
county,
the same
legally, the county cannot make, in my opinion, I'm your city attorney, cannot just carve out and say, we're not going to serve you. That would be a very difficult legal position to take. I don't know who's telling you that.
Maybe I misspoke when I said that.
No, I'm not saying you're mistaken,
No,
but if you're being said that just seems very, I would want to look at that.
Well, look at that map, and you got all this area annexed, and we got our little plot right here.
I understand that. I'm just saying from a strictly legal standpoint, that would be questionable.
But
Mike, could you repeat that? You said Plat A is not part of the annexation?
it's not in our annexation application. I believe it is in the city's annexation policy plan. Okay, I think it is in their boundary. But I'm not aware, and the city can answer this, but I'm not aware that their intent was to force any community to come in that, weren't petitioning to come in. Does that make sense? So,
The bottom line, we would pay a little bit more in taxes for the same service.
if you were in,
Plot A.
well, if you were annexing.
Right, if you're annexed in, right, which that makes no sense to us. Why should we pay more taxes for the same services we're already getting? You say better services, well, it's the same thing.
It's better for Heber.
And why was Plat A not included in the annexation application?
Well, because, again, we're not here to force you as a community who's already existing where you are in Wasatch County to come in. You're a finished development that's the way you are, and if you like being the way you are, then I don't see why you can't stay.
It's up to
the
you
way
as
you are.
property owners if you want to petition for annexation. He's the property owner for his land, you're
Yeah.
the property owner for
So,
your land.
that makes sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
We have an example of that just north of Heber. It's Wasatch View Acres,
Right.
5-acre area.
Yep.
They, even as we were discussing our MOU with the county, they come forward and said, we do not want to be annexed into Heber. And it caused a little trouble for Sorensen because you had the contiguous problem. They were sticking in the way there. But they choose as a community, and so far, they're not annexed, they don't want to be, and so
And this doesn't have the same
that's a little
issue.
like A to
Yeah,
me.
a little bit, but this is still contiguous to everything to the,
Yeah.
obviously to the west of there is the county, so it's not an island or a peninsula. It's fine.
So
It
Heber,
can't stay.
Heber can't force us.
I don't think they have an intent
Yeah,
to, but these
so-
guys can answer that question.
So
The mayor should be able to.
would we vote on it if there was a question about us being annexed? Because when I lived in Park City,
Yeah.
but down past the White Barn,
Right.
I was told that they would need to vote to become part of the
So
city.
here's what my understanding, and Mark in the back, the attorney, could even answer this better than me, but here's what would have to happen. Somebody from your community would have to start an application, and they'd have to have at least, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, 51% of those property owners with inside that area be a part of the petition to annex into the city of Heber. Then So they would submit that petition. At that point, the city would look at the application and see, okay, it's in our policy plan, let's put it on the agenda for discussion, and it would come before a public hearing, and those residents who were opposed to it or for it could show up and say, we don't want to be in.
In that, I think we're saying that we don't want to be in it.
Sure. I'm just saying 51%.
We don't have to get a petition, 51% saying we don't want to be in it.
No, you don't. I'm just saying 51% of your community would have to request to
Sign the annexation,
right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's what I understand. Mark, am I correct in that?
Yes, that well said. I wouldn't add anything to that with regard to how you're talking about.
Yes.
Mike, can you talk to the lower part, the yellow part on, you haven't really talked about how many numbers you're looking at. We know the total count, but can you give us an estimate of how many homes you think are going to come on that front side?
Right here in Village 2? So in the county, interestingly, in the county we had approved 1,688 ERUs, which based on the county's calculation of ERUs, that was about 2,000 units. Back in, Doug reminded me, 2017, right? We had made a separate petition to the county to modify that and had shifted about 1,000 of those units, as I recall, up to the upper ground. And
ERUs or units?
Well, units, right?
Okay.
And so that leaves about 1,000 units through that area of the North Village in round numbers.
And are you still holding to that?
Yeah, that's what we've stated. We haven't changed from that. We're not going any more dense there than what we proposed to do.
And then can I ask, would there be any interest in annexing part of the Sorensen property to the city and leaving the remaining in the county, or is it all or none?
Well, I mean, generally speaking, from our standpoint, again, just getting back to our personal feeling that once we go down this path, we'd rather just deal with one entity and with one development agreement and move down that road. So from our perspective, that's the best, easiest approach for us to handle it from a long-term standpoint. So we would like to just be in the one community. Yes.
Do you know approximately, that blue section is the school section, correct? Do you know approximately how many acres that is?
That blue section is approximately 70 acres in that area.
Mike, as you discussed this whole area with the county, there is an agreement in place. Where's the open space? Where's the open space, or was it to have been, apparently you still owe a bunch of open space for this? Is that still going to hold? If you come into the
Our agreement with the county is we transfer open space on a phase-by-phase basis. In other words, there's a formula. I'm ballparking because I think the number is 4 to 1. I think for every acre we develop, we transfer 4 acres to the county.
So how do you anticipate that moving forward on this if you come into the city?
The way we've worked through the development agreement or discussions with your staff, it would be in a similar fashion. The city, because the MDA would now be with the city, it would be the city's first choice of whether they are going to have the open space. From there, if the city opts not to take the open space, it could go to the county, it could go to the homeowners association, or it could go to another entity like Utah Open Lands. So it kind of just trickles down that until it ends up at the last homeowners association.
That whole process, I guess I share some of what I'm hearing concern of doing this whole big bite at once. That whole process will be defined precisely before we were to ever approve your annexation?
Yes. Well, it's defined in the development agreement. You can read it now. Yes, yeah, you're right. We would want...
So it says city has first choice. If we don't want it, can we then designate?
Sure.
It would then go wherever.
Could go to the county, could go to the Utah Trust Lands or one of those entities or the homeowners association to maintain it. And there may be a combination of all of those, right? Because there might be a large park that either the city or the county wants.
So how is this going to be, I mean, there may be several homeowners associations, right?
Yes, there will be.
With all this?
Yep.
But you see a lot of this coming under homeowners associations?
Yes, there'll be a master association and there will be probably sub-associations for specific development needs. So if there's a townhome community with a clubhouse and pool, this, you know, they would have their own sub-association under the master association.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, correct. Okay. Yes, sir.
So, to take things in a completely different direction, looking at the scope of what's proposed, if you were to, if your petition were to be granted by the city, as part of your master development agreement, would you be willing for all the residential to abide by the city's dark sky compliant lighting ordinances?
Yeah, we have that actually in the NDA. It is dark sky compliant. Yep.
For everything that's...
Yep, the entire project.
Have you done any studies on wildlife impacts?
We do. We do have a wildlife impact statement study, if you will. We also have a controlled management hunting unit up in that area. It does help us control that as well. So we work with the state to help control the wildlife in that area as well. So that obviously, there's some things that would change and could change with that as obviously development moves forward, but we would still work with those departments to ensure that.
Well, it looks like you have room for corridors.
Oh yeah, we do. There are corridors all the way to the lake, no question about it, and to the water sources. So you would still probably see a lot of elk and deer like we currently see up there.
You could have some backyard hunting subdivisions.
Well, as you know, Ron, inside the city, there's
We could do it. We could do it in the city, right?
Right. Yes, sir.
You see the entitlements problem, costing down, if you're going to extend the city, your entitlement cost.
Just looking at that a little bit, they're probably fairly similar between the county. I mean, like Bill shared some of those average costs. That's right. It's a scary thought, frankly, from a developer's perspective, the numbers he's thrown out, but I'm here to confirm to you that that's one of the challenges. It's probably similar. At this point, you know, my concern, it's more of a time frame standpoint as it is a cost standpoint. Okay. Yeah. Yes.
Are there room in the rules of your development phases?
Yeah, from a village standpoint, yes. I mean, 1, 2 are probably more simultaneous. 3, 4, and 5 are later. I mean, as you can imagine, infrastructure is built in a, you know, we're not going to all of a sudden drive back to 4 and, okay, because it's the cool view back there, we're going to start back there, right? No. We're obviously we'll be dragging utilities from where those utilities are in 40 and 32 up that direction. A lot of the water tanks and water systems and those things are already currently in place and were done back in 06, 07, 08 timeframe. So, yeah.
Has somebody bought all that land between 32 and that other road where I see there's sheep herders all the time?
Up here along 32?
Yes.
Have you been riding up on that property? No. That's Bedlock Ranch. That's what Bill was referring to as Bedlock Ranch. And so there is a developer there. 1,200 units, Doug, he has entitled? 2,000. 2,000. Mostly single family? Mostly single family in that area. It's on 3,000 acres, right? Or about 3,000? Oh, 2,000. So he's got, yeah. Does that make sense? That's what, Debbie knows more about that project than I do. Any other questions? Yes?
Can we just talk about roads? Because the main road that comes down into Coyote, that's a fairly steep road, and currently it's a gravel road. It's an old farm road.
That road is the dashed line?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the grade on that?
The best